Just a quick update, the Patreon page is now live. The link will be down below if you want to check it out. You'll have access to all of my betting packages and much more. Thanks again for all the support, but for now, let's get into the video. Yo, what's up guys, we're back, and this week it's for a sick card, man. UFC 259, definitely one of the best cards of the year, so I'm excited to break it down. But before we get started, make sure to drop a like, hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed, and make sure to put a comment down below. Just tell me, which fights you like, which fighters you like, and overall, what do you think about the card? Because I feel like this is probably going to be the best card of the entire year. I'm really excited for a lot of the fights, and a lot of the fights are close, so I really want to know your guys' opinion on these fights as well. So make sure to put a comment down below and hit that like button for sure. But we're going to get right into it here with this first fight of the night. This is actually starting off with a bang, man. Mario Bautista taking on Trevin Jones. And Mario Bautista is making his return. He hasn't fought in quite a while. He's taken about a year away. And his last fight was probably his best performance in the UFC. He landed that flying knee. He took out Miles Johns. He was the underdog in that fight. And that put Bautista in a 2-fight win streak. His momentum has been halted a little bit because of the layoff, so he definitely needs to come back here and remind people, why they were hyped about him before he got hurt. But his opponent, Trevin Jones, he had a really good UFC debut, man. He entered the fight with the, short notice camp. He was an underdog, and he was able to get in there and find the finish. And he was hurt to the body in the first round. He got battered with a lot of shots, but he was always cognizant. And in my opinion, it was a good job by the referee to allow the fight to continue, and he was able to survive and then just took out Timur Valiev pretty brutally. But unfortunately for him, the win was turned into a no contest due to a failed drug test. But the UFC's still progressing him as if he won the fight. He's getting a guy that's won 2 fights in a row, and this is a good match for him to prove his win over Valiev was not a fluke. He's a legit prospect. And Trevin Jones, man, I actually was pretty impressed. I'm impressed with both these guys overall. I feel like Mario Bautista, he's obviously the more established guy. He's had more fights in the UFC, and he has the better record, and he's been training with better guys. Trevin Jones has recently came to to Extreme Couture, but he was training in Guam. He wasn't really getting the most high-level training in the past. And as far as Bautista goes, he's always been training at the MMA lab, getting good training and, working with a lot of guys. So he's, in my opinion, that's why he's the favorite, because when you look at the fighting styles, I do feel like the line should be a lot closer. Both these guys aren't really known for their fight-ending power, but I do feel like Trevin Jones definitely flashed big power in his hands and in his counterpunching in his last fight, and I feel like that's something that could give big trouble to a guy like Mario Bautista, who likes to brawl, dig in, get inside, trade. And Bautista's definitely going to be the guy that throws more volume. He also throws pretty much probably the more array of strikes and the better array of strikes in terms of kicks. In his last fight, he did finish with the flying knee. But, I do believe that in terms of his boxing, I think Trevin Jones is much sharper. I was very impressed with Trevin Jones' counterboxing, his counter-punching in the pocket, especially under duress against Timur Valiev. He was landing those real nice short hooks and showed big power. And I feel like that's going to give issues to Bautista, who's a guy that he likes to get on the inside, be tougher than his opponents, throw big, heavy hooks, throw elbows, get guys to back up, and then he could start to throw kicks, throw those flying knees when he starts to demoralize him a little bit. But I feel like Trevin Jones is the type of guy that when he goes in there and he's, trying to open up, Trevin Jones is going to be a lot tighter, a lot sharper, and he could counter and hurt him. And this is going to be the first southpaw that Mario Bautista's faced in his career, so I do think that that's also going to be a bit of an issue for him, along with the fact that I do believe Trevin Jones is the better grappler. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt, and he looks very physically strong. He's good in the clinch. He has nice takedowns. He was able to hit a couple takedowns on Timur Valiev, who I believe is a much higher level grappler than Mario Bautista. And this fight's going to be interesting because I do believe that Bautista's been out for quite a while. He is, on the younger side, so he could come in here and look, that much improved, look sharper, look a little bit better. But I'm actually going to go the other way here. I'm going to go with Trevin Jones in this fight. Jones, I feel like he's really good at staying calm under pressure, which is what Bautista likes to do, countering with those short hooks, the uppercuts, Jones will change angles on the hooks. He'll switch stances. He has power. He has hand speed. And I think he's going to be the one landing the better shots when Mario tries to get inside. I also think Jones is a superior wrestler. I think he could hit some takedowns, get points that way too. Jones impressed me not only with his toughness for Valiev, but his fight IQ, his composure. He has great ability to attack while under duress, and I just think this matchup works into his hands. I like him at the price that he's at as well, so I'm actually going to go with Trevin Jones to get the win in this one. In this next fight, we got two Contender Series guys in Aalon Cruz and Earl Smith, and Earl Smith kept his undefeated record intact in his last fight. He went in there, defeated Mikey Gonzalez, and he continues winning ways and his finishing ways. He's finished all 6 of his opponents, but still mainly unproven. He, fought most of his fights in Alaska FC, 5 of his 6 fights, and looked good on the Contender Series, but in my opinion, his opponent Mikey Gonzalez didn't really have a good performance there. And just looking at Medic's record, he's only faced 3 fighters who've had a winning record, and this is going to be his first opponent with more than 10 pro fights, so it is going to be a step up for him. He is going to be, fighting once again at 155 pounds. He wasn't cutting weight for his early fights, but if he can make lightweight safely, he looked like a huge guy for the weight class. He's 6'1", he's a southpaw, very fast, he's explosive, he throws a lot of different techniques, he's very loose, he's flowy, and he's a good striker. He has good feints. He has a really good jab, good 1-2, really nasty left cross, and he likes to throw the right hook before or after the left cross, and he also likes to throw that left straight to a low kick combination. Very fluid with his hands, throws tight hooks, tight uppercuts, really good job of throwing boxing combinations when he can back eyes up to the cage, really good forward pressure, distance control. In my opinion, he has a clear boxing advantage in this fight, and he throws a lot of nice front kicks, round kicks, dangerous spinning attacks, real good knees, uppercuts, and he just has a way of overwhelming opponents and making them look for a way out. He does have 4 knockouts in his career. Very solid defense as well. You could tell he's a good striker training out of King's MMA there. And his grappling is going to be what his opponents try to exploit. He's had certain performances that do make you question if his grappling is up to par, but it's really hard to say though because he's been fighting huge fighters in Alaska FC. He's fought at 170 pounds, 185 pounds, but at this weight class, I do think he's going to be much harder to bully around. He's very explosive, he looks strong, and I think he's going to have a strength advantage over most fighters he faces at 155 pounds. When he fought a fighter named Alonzo Leishholm Jr., he showed some athleticism. He landed several Granby rolls and he denied some takedown attempts with those. He was able to, really just dominate the grappling and just show that he was levels above that guy physically, and that was 170 pounds, but he didn't really, Leishholm didn't look like he was cutting weight to me, but Medic did lose the first round in 2018 to a fighter who's 1-4 by being out grappled, who, which is a little bit alarming. The guy, Nathan Fitoza, he was able to take down Medic with a body lock. He held him down until the round ended, and Medic is threatening in his guard. I've seen him throw up some nice triangles. He attacks leg locks. Pretty good hit movement. He was able to hit a triangle from bottom against a really big 185er in Jason Flowers. He does have 2 career submissions, and I've seen opponents pass his guard, but he's good at staying composed. He doesn't really make any big actions that give opponents chances to capitalize. He does look to be improving a lot with his grappling defense, with his get-ups. And if he gets on top, he's gonna unload with some vicious ground and pound. He looks like he has good cardio, but he's finished 5 of his 6 wins in the first round. His other fight ended less than a minute into the second round, so we've not really seen Medic extend into a third round or to a decision. And his opponent, Aalon Cruz, he was unsuccessful in his UFC debut. He got finished by Spike Carlisle in the first round, and he changed things up. He moved up to weight class. He's moving up to 155. He also made the move to Extreme Couture. He's going to be the more experienced fighter in this matchup, and he's been there. He's defeated current UFC fighters. He's just fought much better competition overall. He's a striker himself, and he's going to have a big reach advantage. He actually is only 1 inch taller than Medic. Or actually, Medic is 1 inch taller than him, but he's going to have a 7-inch reach disadvantage here. And Aalon Cruz, he likes to fight on the outside. He's fluid. He can switch stances. He throws a lot of really nice kicks, and his boxing isn't great. He doesn't really utilize his hands a lot, but he will throw some 1-2s out there. He likes to throw a double jab, switch stances, and then blitz in. He will load up with some big power uppercuts. He likes to throw the left hook to the body to a low kick combo. He doesn't really have the most power in his hands. Doesn't really have the best defense either. He was hit with a lot of lead hooks for Stephen Wynn. And he gets backed up a lot. That's where opponents can land. And, Spike Carlisle was able to use his movement to back him up. Landed a nice high kick, swarmed him, tried to take it, and then Cruz tried to take him down. And eventually finished him off with those big elbows. He, just doesn't really do a great job of avoiding shots when he gets backed up. He likes to shell up. But he does have real dangerous front kicks to the face, round kicks. He'll, throw him body head early and often. Really active kicker. Throws a lot of lead leg side kicks. He's even thrown some axe kicks, flying knees, spinning kicks. He caught Stephen Wynn with a perfect flying knee on the Contender Series. So he's flashed some really nice techniques. And he's probably the better grappler in this matchup. His wrestling is not very good, though. And he's primarily a striker. He doesn't really wrestle unless he feels uncomfortable exchanging. Then he'll try to close the distance, get in the clinch, and try to get close. He does do a good job of level changing. That's pretty fast level changes. But just seems like he doesn't really have a lot of physicality. He has some decent trips in the clinch. He likes to attack the single leg. He'll try to, use the single to take the back. But, it's just like he seems like he gets out-muscled, and that's even at 145 pounds. So against Earl Smith, I'm not sure he's going to be able to hit these takedowns effectively. But he did catch a submission over Steve Garcia, a rear naked choke, who is a UFC guy. To me, though, he sometimes, when he gets pressured or when he gets hit with the shot, he will shoot ugly takedowns. And I could see better fighters or even Medic reversing, getting on top, and making Cruz pay for that. We saw in Cruz's last fight, he put his head in a bad position going for a takedown against the cage, got smashed by elbows. Spike Carlisle was able to get on top, quickly progressed to mount, and TKO'd him. So, Aalon Cruz has been submitted in 2 of his 3 losses as well. Both of his submission losses were rear naked chokes. His latest loss was via ground and pound, so all 3 of his losses were finished on the ground. Cruz does have good cardio. We've seen him go 15 minutes, be dangerous, get late round finishes. So he is the guy that's more proven in that aspect. He is undefeated in decisions at 4-0. To me, Earl Smith is the better striker in this fight. He's much faster. He's more explosive. He has better movement. He's loose. He's flowing. He throws dynamic combinations. He looks fast. He looks powerful. And on the feet, I think he's going to be a handful. I feel like Medic is going to be able to defend the takedowns. And I think he's even going to be able to potentially reverse, get on top. I think he's going to be able to use his forward pressure to back Cruz up. I really see him overwhelming Cruz on the feet with the speed and power. Cruz, to me, just gets backed up too easily. You don't want to go backwards versus a guy like Medic. And Cruz being a 145er, moving up, and Medic having fought much bigger fighters, I see him, like you said, being able to defend the takedowns, backing him up quickly. I also believe that if he can get on top of Cruz, he could finish the fight. I don't think Cruz has the athleticism or clear advantage in any area. He does have flashy techniques, which are dangerous, so if he can land a high kick, a flying knee, could take out Medic, but Medic is a polished striker. I think he can avoid those, uses pressure to jam the kicks, jam the knees. Pretty confident Medic can get in there and get the win, so the pick for me is going to be Earl Smith in this one. And up next here we got a close fight in my opinion with Sean Brady taking on Jake Matthews. I feel like these guys are similar type of fighters. They're good strikers, they're explosive. I do feel like Sean Brady has maybe a little bit better of striking style, but I do think Jake Matthews is the more explosive, dangerous of the 2 guys. I do think they both have power. Sean Brady's shown that, in that left hand, he has big power. But Jake Matthews, he's a guy that just likes to move around, be in and out, but he'll explode in with those uppercuts, with those hooks, with those overhands, and, they're dangerous. He definitely has big power. He could hurt you, he could sit you down, and he also has the ability to work off that movement and hit takedowns, which is what he mainly likes to do. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. When he gets on top, he can grind you out, and that's how he wins most of his fights. He either can use his movement on the outside and his big bombs to hurt you and kind of just avoid your shots, pot shot, land the bigger shots, move, or he pulls you into his takedowns, gets on top, grinds you out, finds the submission, and that's how he's been able to find most of his wins. Whereas Sean Brady, he's a guy that likes to pressure, use real nice heavy low kicks, nice tight boxing combinations, get you backed up behind that black line, near the cage, and then get you in the clinch where he looks very physically strong. And once he can get you in that clinch, control you from there, he can really start to zap on your cardio. In his last fight, we did see him, hit that nasty mounted guillotine. So definitely is a real good jiu-jitsu black belt and has some submissions that he can go to. The grappling is what's going to be interesting in this fight because I haven't seen either of these guys ever really, be taken down. I have seen, at 155 with Jake Matthews, him kind of be, out-grappled because he couldn't really deal with the, leg entanglements against Andrew Holbrook and things like that. But, in this fight, Sean Brady, I don't think is going to be doing that. I feel like it's going to come down to who just is the better grappler in the clinch, which ultimately I think it's going to be Sean Brady. And I do think that the low kicks of Sean Brady are going to pay dividends for him if the fight goes longer. Also, a tendency of Jake Matthews is that he slows down in fights, so him coming over to the United States also as well. He's never won in the U.S., but he is undefeated in his last 2 fights outside of Australia, which, used to be a knock on him, so he's gotten a little bit better with that. I still feel like his cardio is going to be lesser than Sean Brady's, but in terms of, just looking at the fight in a vacuum, I do think that Jake Matthews has a chance to hurt Brady on the feet because we've seen him be a little bit choppy trying to close the distance against guys like Ishmael Nardiev, eat some shots against guys like Court McGee, and Jake Matthews has that big power. It's not like he has, huge knockout power, so that's why I'm going to pick Sean Brady. I'm not necessarily extremely worried about Jake Matthews getting knockout, but if he can hurt Sean Brady, make him a little bit hesitant to close that distance, make it more of a striking fight on the outside, then maybe Jake Matthews could even win a close decision as well. But I think Sean Brady is going to be able to use his pressure, the low kicks to chop, slow down the movement of Jake Matthews, push him into those later rounds, get him in the clinch, get his muscles heavy and slow him down and get him a little bit tired, and then he can start to take over a little bit and pull away. And I'm going to go with Sean Brady in this one. Interesting fight in this next one where we got Carlos Ulberg taking on Kennedy and Nzechukwu. And, usually, like always, when Israel Adesanya fights, there's usually a couple guys from City Kickboxing on the card. So Carlos Ulberg's kicking off the party here. He's the first City Kickboxing guy. And he's only 3-0 in MMA. He's a similar mold to Israel Adesanya, where he's a kickboxing champion. He's obviously doesn't have nearly the experience that Adesanya had when he came over into the UFC, but he's had a few fights. He's coming off a win on the Contender Series, and they're throwing him in here right into the UFC, so they do think that he has good potential. Obviously, he's trained out of a gym that's been able to mold that prototype into a good fighter, a good kickboxer. He's big, has a good frame, athletic, fast twitch guy, good feints, good fakes, kind of athletic guy that throws a lot of kicks, flying knees. He can even, mix in some spins, but he also has some pretty solid boxing. And he's going to be taking on Kennedy and Nzechukwu, who the last time we saw him was quite a while ago. He hasn't fought in, I believe, well over a year at this point. If not, he hasn't fought in quite a while. And the last time we saw him, he was facing Darko Stosic, where he won the fight technically, but if you go back and watch the fight, he lost the fight on the scorecards, but he got 2 points awarded to him because of low blows. It was a very odd fight. And, Kennedy and Nzechukwu, he's looks like he has a very good frame, good 1-2. Sometimes he can be long and land some decent combinations, some nice shots. But to me, he just doesn't look like he's a great striker. You could definitely tell he's learning in there. You'll be very low volume at times, not throw much besides the 1-2. There's a lot of reaching with his hands, and, he leans back a lot as some tall man defense. He does hit pretty hard, though. 4 of his 5 victories are via KO TKO. Not really a great grappler either. He is good in the clinch, which I feel like is what he's going to need to do here. Get in the clinch, get Carlos tired, wear on him. If he gets on top, I do believe maybe he could land some decent ground and pound, but, he doesn't really shoot takedowns. He's actually a guy that has really struggled with his defensive grappling, getting taken down. Paul Craig was actually able to submit him, and he showed poor fight IQ there because he could have gotten back up. He was probably winning the fight, and he was playing around in Paul Craig's guard, which gave him the only chance he had to really get the win. And, Paul Craig was able to catch him there. But I do feel like, on the feet, he's going to have a lot of issues with a guy like Carlos Ulberg. Ulberg, he looks the part. He has a big frame. He's athletic. He has good fakes, good feints, switches stances, cuts angles well, good jab, good left hook. It's lightning. It's very accurate. Throws heavy overhand rights. And when he closes distance, he's very quick. He's super aggressive. He uses the jab to close the distance, flurries with big power hooks. Real nasty front kicks up the middle, real nice knees, low kicks, high kicks. He's good in the pocket. I just feel like on the feet, he's much, much, much further ahead than his opponent. And he's a tough guy. I've seen him, come through adversity. I've seen him drop multiple times, hurt with the spinning heel kick, come back, put a beating on his opponent, get the finish. He can sometimes get backed up a little bit, get a little bit wild in the pocket, but gets Kennedy and Nzechukwu. I just don't know unless Kennedy could take him down or has gotten a lot better in this time off. I feel like Carlos on the feet is going to be able to control the distance, really dominate the striking, make Kennedy just nervous to even throw anything, and I think Carlos could even get the finish here. So I got Carlos Ulberg in this fight, and I just think he's going to outclass him on the feet. This next fight, we got a bit of a grudge match with Tim Elliott taking on Jordan Espinosa, and they've been scheduled to fight a few times. Tim Elliott's been calling Jordan Espinosa out on social media, and I believe Jordan Espinosa at one point had a connection in Glory MMA to James Krause, and Tim Elliott obviously is training there now, and you could see some of the mind games Tim Elliott is playing in terms of he's saying that, obviously Jordan Espinosa and James Krause have worked together, so he knows a little bit of how he is, how he looks, how he fights. And Tim Elliott's been saying things like, James Krause says this is a good matchup for me, stuff like that. So he's trying to get in Jordan Espinosa's head a little bit, but, in terms of the fight, I feel like they're kind of similar fighters in terms of their grappling first. They're most dangerous with their grappling. I do think Jordan Espinosa is obviously the cleaner boxer, the way more athletic guy overall. He is the much, better mover with his footwork, and he's always looking for that straight right hand down the middle, kind of, has some nice pop in that shot. I don't think he has, knockout power, huge KO power or anything, but can definitely hurt guys. He has fast hands, but mainly just tries to pot shot you with that straight right, with his 1-2. If you force him into exchanges, he will, try to pull counter you against the cage, and it's pretty fast, has some quick hands. I've seen him land some nice switch kicks. He has good high kicks, but he's low volume. He does tend to get backed up, and he uses a lot of movement, a lot of, explosive actions in and out, and that does get him tired. Tim Elliott's a guy that, is much more economical, but he also is very, crazy the way that he moves around. He is, always coming forward, and he's more, I don't want to say he's not as good on the feet because he's just different. He's able to, be awkward, use his weird movement, his weird kicks, just his overwhelmingness of volume to just get guys on the back foot. He gets them in the clinch, throws a body head, dirty boxing. And I do feel like on the feet, early on, Elliott's going to have to take some shots, but I think ultimately he's going to be the guy going forward, and he's going to have a chance to land shots of his own, hurt Espinosa. I think he's going to be the more durable of the two guys overall, and I think he's going to be the guy that throws more volume and is the guy coming forward. But I do think Espinosa is going to be landing the cleaner shots, maybe the more impactful punches, and I do think Tim Elliott really has to get his wrestling going or make it a dogfight, get Jordan Espinosa really working, get him tired. And both these guys are kind of iffy on the mat in terms of they can get submissions, but they can also give up submissions. In decisions, both guys kind of tend to win some, lose some. They don't really have great records in decisions either. So neither guy is an extremely trustworthy fighter. But I'm just going to go with the dog in this fight. I'm going to go with the guy that I think is, going to push the pace. The guy that I think came to a good camp and is probably getting a lot better training than he's been getting recently in Tim Elliott. I think that he's going to be able to get Jordan Espinosa tired with his forward pressure. Maybe he'll drop that first round, but maybe he'll start to get takedowns in the second and the third, land more shots on the feet, and just be the guy that wants a more of the hungrier fighter. And I'm going to go with Tim Elliott to win a decision. This next fight, we got the first female fight on the card with Liva Souza taking on Amanda Lemos. And man, this fight kind of sucks for me because I'm a pretty big fan of Liva Souza. If you've heard my channel, I just like the way she fights. She's a jiu-jitsu fighter, and she has good promos. I like her on the mic. She's a funny girl, and I think Amanda Lemos. I said this before she fought Miranda Granger, and I knew it was very presumptuous, and I mean even now it is. But it's kind of funny that they're on the same card now. When I said her striking style and her overall game kind of reminds me of Amanda Nunes. And, she's came down to 115 pounds and wreaked havoc in her first two fights. She choked out Miranda Granger unconscious, came in there against Mizuki Inoue, really put a lot of damage on her, dropped her, beat her up. And Liva Souza, she's done a good job in the UFC as well in terms of getting wins. She actually is the currently ranked fighter, and she's 4-1 in the UFC, but a lot of her wins have been underwhelming, very close decisions. Her, level of competition has not been very high either. And this is definitely going to be a stiff test here against a girl like Amanda Lemos. And, Liva Souza, she's very aggressive with her striking. She comes forward, throws a lot of real nice body kicks, some 1-2s. She does have some decent power in her hands and her kicks, but definitely going to be at a big striking disadvantage in this fight. She's very low volume. She's a girl that I just don't feel like necessarily is as sharp or as good on the outside from range as a girl like Amanda Lemos. She really likes to crash that distance and, be a little bit more wild. Whereas I think Amanda is going to be able to really chop those legs, land the straight shots down the middle, be the more technical striker. And Liva Souza, she is a judo black belt. She's very aggressive with her takedowns, and that's what she's going to need to do here. She's going to need to close that gap. We have seen Amanda, in her last fight, struggle a little bit to get her back off the cage. She did show good takedown defense, and against Miranda Granger, she did hit that nice body lock, took the back quickly, got that rear naked choke. But Liva Souza is a black belt in jiu-jitsu and judo, and if she can get in that clinch, she could potentially hit some takedowns. If she can get deep in on the legs, maybe she can get a takedown or two. But ultimately, I do think it's going to be hard to take down a girl like Amanda Lemos. I think Amanda, she's dropping down from 135 pounds. She's one of the biggest strawweights on the roster, whereas Liva Souza is on the opposite end of the spectrum, being one of the smallest strawweights on the roster. I think that she's going to be at a big physicality disadvantage, and you see that in a lot of Liva's fights because she doesn't tend to get a ton of takedowns. She's more of a girl that likes to pull guard, has a lot of submissions off of her back, and you've seen certain girls be able to, even when she does take them down, re-guard, do a good job of avoiding the submission. So I don't necessarily think if Amanda Lemos gets taken down, she's going to be submitted, and every fight starts on the feet, so she's going to have an opportunity at the start of every round to pull ahead on the cards. And I ultimately just don't think Liva Souza is going to be able to pull guard and hit a submission. I don't think she's going to be able to be effective in the clinch. I think Lemos is going to be able to be more effective at range than Liva is in the clinch, and I don't think Liva is going to be effective with their takedowns. So I am going to go with Amanda Lemos to win this fight, and I think she's, one of the safer plays on the card. This next fight, we got Rogerio Bortorin taking on Kai Kara France. And this is a fight that, a lot of people are on the underdog here on Rogerio Bortorin. He's a popular underdog, similar to, Kevin Kroom of last week. But I'm actually going to go the other way. I'm going to go with Kai Kara France. And I do believe that, Kai Kara-France, he is overvalued in a lot of spots. Don't necessarily think he deserves to be, such a favorite that he opened up as in this spot, but now his line has came down. I do think it's probably pretty accurate at this point. And Rogerio Bortorin, he is a very good grappler. He does a good job of closing that gap, getting in the clinch, very physically strong. If he can get on top, he has good control, good submission game, good back takes, good ground and pound. And we've seen him go for it, really try to push the pace, get on the inside, throw big bombs. We saw that when he fought Raulian Paiva, which is a common opponent of these two. But another thing we've seen about Rogerio Bortorin is, even though he's a physically strong guy in the clinch, he doesn't really have good freestyle wrestling. He gets taken down pretty easily. We've seen multiple guys be able to hit takedowns on him. Magomed Bigbalotov got on top of him. Raulian Paiva got on top of him. Ray Borg just took him down at will. So definitely, being out for a while now, Bortorin probably has worked on that. And in terms of the striking, I just feel like even though Kai Kara-France's striking is overrated in my opinion, he's still the much more fluid mover with a lot more power in that right hand. And I do believe that he's going to be able to pull Bortorin into shots. Bortorin is very basic on the feet. He's square, comes forward, just throws overhands. To me, he doesn't really have a lot of speed. He doesn't throw a lot of volume, which is something that, Kai Kara-France struggles with. It's not like Kai Kara-France is just going out there and losing to bums or just struggling against anyone. He struggles against guys that really can get in his face, throw a lot of volume, the Brandon Morenos, the Brandon Royvals. And I don't think Rogerio Bortorin is that guy. I don't think Bortorin is going to be able to be technical enough to close that gap without getting touched. And I don't think he's going to be able to cut Kai off effectively. I don't think he has necessary boxing or the speed. I don't necessarily think he's going to be successful hitting takedowns. I think Kai could even hit some takedowns of his own, but if he does that, then he has to be very careful about the submission and the sweep game of Bortorin. So ultimately, I would just try to keep it on the feet if I was Kai Kara-France, and I think he's going to be able to get the decision here. So I'm going to go with Kai Kara-France. In this next fight, man, we're still on the prelims. We got fights like this. Joe B. Benavidez taking on Askar Askarov, two top 5 guys at flyweight. Really intriguing fight because we have the old guard against the new guard once again with Joseph Benavidez, who's trying to bounce back from two back-to-back brutal losses, man. I mean, that second loss against Stevenson Figueiredo is pretty difficult to watch. And, he took a lot of damage in both fights, obviously. So that's going to be a big tail of the fight if Joseph Benavidez still has his chin intact. Because he's going to be taking a guy in Askar Askarov who is more known for his grappling, but he can crack a little bit. He is a decent boxer. He switches stances and a very good cerebral grappler. I do think that if you look at the fight on paper, this is a very good matchup for Joseph Benavidez. I mean, I don't really think many people in the world are going to grapple fucking guy like Joe B, man. Joe B is a great wrestler, super elite scrambler. He's defeated this style his whole career. On the feet, I mean, Askar Askarov, I do think that he has the more technical boxing, and he probably is going to be able to land some nice crosses, some 1-2s, some nice short hooks. But Askarov hasn't really shown one-punch knockout power, definitely not at like the level of a Stevenson Figueiredo. And Askar isn't a guy that really overwhelms you with his volume, with his speed, with his power, with his athleticism. I do feel like Joseph Benavidez is going to be able to get in the inside on a guy like Askar Askarov, and I do think he hits with, more dangerous intentions than a guy like Askar Askarov. So it's going to come down to if Askar Askarov can really go out there and out-grapple a guy, in my opinion, like Joseph Benavidez, and I just don't really see that happening, even though you can never be super confident on a guy that just is 36 years old, just got deaded 2 times in a row. But man, I mean, on paper, this is a good matchup for Joe B. I feel like he's going to be able to win the striking exchanges, be the more dynamic guy on the feet, and he's going to be able to hit takedowns if he wants, be the better grappler if Askar wants to do that. I mean, if you look at several of Askar Askarov's fights as well, like his third round of his fight with Brandon Moreno, he got taken down, he got his back taken, he got controlled in that fight predominantly for the whole round. If you look at his fight with Tim Elliott, he was getting taken down in that fight, quite a few times. And he does have very, very, very good cardio. But, if you can stuff his takedowns, force him to strike, keep him on the back foot, he does tend to get a little bit tired. You saw against Tim Elliott, got a little bit tired, wasn't really dealing with the leg kicks the best. You saw against Brandon Moreno, he definitely got a little bit tired. So, I can't be confident in a guy like Joseph Benavidez, like I said, just because of the chin factor. But I think he's better on the feet. I think he's the better athlete. I think he's the better grappler. And that's why I'm going to go with Joseph Benavidez. I think he's just going to be able to do his thing, go in there, and get the win over Askarov here. Up next here, we got two young prospects, and this is a great fight, man. Great style matchup with Yadong Song taking on Kyler Phillips. We got a guy in Yadong Song who's more basic, but he really likes to close that gap, get in the pocket, and man, in the pocket he has some crazy power, and this guy is just he's a terror in that pocket with that straight right hand. He can close that gap like just a freaking bolt of lightning, man, and really has huge power in that punch, real nice check hooks, 1-2s, and he just likes to walk guys down, get in their face, chop at the low kicks, and really just try to knock him out with that big right hand. You could see in that Cody Stamann fight that he's improved his grappling a lot at Team Alpha Male. He was actually, able to sweep Cody Stamann and even able to take him down and out-grapple him at certain portions of the fight. And Cody Stamann is a very high-level grappler. And in terms of just the level of competition, Yadong Song has faced a much higher level of competition, especially his last two fights. Even though he's unbeaten in the UFC, those fights are very controversial in terms of the scorecards. So that is something that Yadong Song needs to get better at. He needs to get better at making the fights more definitive. But, in this fight, he's obviously going to have to close that gap and try to make it a pocket fight, because Kyler Phillips is a guy that is a very creative striker, great movement, works very good off the jab, very calm in the pocket himself. He does a good job of, rolling with shots, counter-punching, returning. He has good power himself, but I do believe he's at a big power disadvantage against a guy like Yadong Song. He is going to be more dangerous with the kicks, with the lower body attacks, but I think that Yadong's going to be able to jam that with the forward pressure. So ultimately, I just think it's going to come down to if Kyler Phillips is going to be able to be creative, creating combinations off the jab in the pocket, just touch Yadong Song up, be able to stick and move, not get hit with that big power shot or not get caught in the pocket too much. And Kyler Phillips has shown in his last couple of fights the ability to mix it up and grapple in certain fights. But in this fight, I've seen enough from Yadong Song, in his fight with Cody Stamann and his fight with Felipe Aranches to, in my opinion, believe that he's going to be able to deny the takedown attempts of Kyler Phillips or be able to scramble with him, get back up to his feet, make it more of a striking fight. And I'm just going to go with Yadong Song because I believe that he's going to be able to implement his game plan better. I think he's going to be able to pressure, force the pocket exchanges. I think Kyler will maybe even start to accept that. And once he does, I think Yadong's going to land the more powerful shots. I don't think Kyler is going to be, good enough with his movement and creativity, like I said, to stick and move here. He does have a solid reach advantage, but I'm going to go with the more powerful guy in Yadong Song. Man, yeah, we're still on the prelims, guys. This is the feature prelim right here. Dominick Cruz taking on Casey Kenney. Dominick Cruz's last fight was the co-main event. He was fighting for the bantamweight title. Now we got him on the prelims. And first off, before I break this fight down at all, man, I want to give a big shout out to Dominick Cruz for taking this fight, for fighting a guy like Casey Kenney, because, man, it's not easy to, when you're a legend like Dominick Cruz, to accept these fights with the young guard, a guy like Casey Kenney who's not even ranked. He's a guy that's not really has a big name, and Cruz is putting a lot on the line here, and he's giving Casey Kenney a chance to move up, make a name for himself, and that's commendable, because that's how the sport improves and grows, when these veterans with the names do give a chance to these younger guys to come up and get wins off of them. But Dominick Cruz is obviously going to try to keep his position here. And I do think that in his last fight, obviously he got caught with that knee, controversial finish, and a really bad first round for him. But I think he looked good in that second round, man. He was starting to come on. His movement looked good. The jab looked good. He was starting to land his, decent counter punches, nice kicks. And in terms of Casey Kenney, man, I'm not very good at picking Casey Kenney fights. I've been getting a lot of his fights incorrectly. I don't really have a good read on the guy, but, he's been proving me wrong. He looks real good recently. Against Nathaniel Wood, that was a war, man. He showed real good toughness, real good ability to just stay in there, counter punch, get hit, hit back. And he has big power in that left hand, man. Big power in that left kick. He's going to want to just close that gap. Try to get in the pocket, force exchanges, force Dominick Cruz to, box with him. Or he's going to want to chop him down with that left kick, the low kicks, which we saw Henry Cejudo have a lot of success with, the body kicks, and just try to get Dominick Cruz tired. In terms of the grappling, I do feel like Cruz is going to have an advantage there. He's the bigger guy. I think he's the better wrestler. And we've seen Casey Kenney kind of struggle to defend takedowns throughout his UFC career, but we have heard Kenney in the build-up to this fight say that, he's, not like some of the things that Dominick Cruz has said on commentary regarding his wrestling, and he's going to, test that part of Dominick Cruz's game, show him that, he was wrong about that, whereas I feel like if that's the game plan, Dominick Cruz is going to have more success than Casey Kenney in the scrambles and in the grappling, but, we'll be able to see early on from that if Dominick Cruz still has that same ability to wrestle like he used to have. But I felt like his level changes looked good in his last fight against Cejudo. He was still looking fast. He was moving around well. And he's obviously going to be on the outside, trying to move, trying to get Casey Kenney frustrated, use his typical, game plan. And I do feel like Casey Kenney, he's a little bit more flat-footed, so I do think that the movement of Dominick Cruz is going to be effective. I think that he's going to be able to move, touch Casey Kenney with some counters, and Casey Kenney is a young guy. He's not necessarily a guy that's been in there with a lot of super elite strikers, super elite fighters, and I think that the last few fights that Casey Kenney has had with guys like Healy Alatane, guys like Nathaniel Wood, those guys have planted their feet and they've struck with them right in the center of the pocket. They haven't been moving that much. They've, given him brawls. Casey Kenney's been able to walk some of those guys down, use the left kick, and he's a real good counter puncher. He has big power as well. Dominick Cruz isn't going to do that. He's not going to, play to the flat-footedness of Casey Kenney, which I do think Casey is a little bit flat-footed. I think he's going to move around. Kenny's a guy that's a bonus hunter, really likes to have fun, exciting fights. So I think that fighting a guy like Dominick Cruz, he is going to know that, Cruz is going to try to frustrate him with the movement, but ultimately I think he is going to fall into that trap a little bit. I think Cruz is going to be able to land some nice counters, pulling in some takedown attempts. And I think Cruz is just going to be able to outclass him, just show him that he's on another level. I think that the last guy that Casey Kenney really, fought that had good movement on the feet was Merab Dvalishvili. And even on the feet, Merab was giving Casey Kenney a lot of issues. I don't think that Casey Kenney necessarily has that one punch, one hitter, quitter power. He does have good power, but Dominick Cruz is a very durable guy. His last fight was the first time he's ever lost by strikes, and that was a controversial stoppage. So I think he's going to be able to take the power that Casey Kenney has, and I feel like Dominick Cruz is going to just be the better striker here, the better wrestler. He's going to be able to rack up the points. I think that Casey Kenney is going to have success potentially with the low kicks, but Dominick Cruz, man, he had that fight with Henry Cejudo. He felt the leg kicks. I'm sure he's going to have some sort of game plan to counter that here. He's had a lot more time to train for this fight than he did for the Henry fight. A lot better training camp. I feel like he's going to look even sharper here potentially. So I'm just going to go with Dominick Cruz. I feel like he's just going to be able to use his movement to frustrate Casey Kenney like he does most guys. Use counters, use his takedowns, and just kind of win a comprehensive decision here over Casey Kenney. And the hits keep coming, man. To start off the main card, we got Thiago Santos taking on Aleksandar Rakic, and man, this is a sick fight right here. We got two guys that are real good strikers. They usually like to keep it on the feet and bang. And I mean, I feel like Aleksandar Rakic, he's probably going to try to get it to the ground in this one because he's facing the guy that has the most knockouts in UFC history, man. Thiago Santos, the Hammer. He's a guy that, could close that gap and just has freaking crazy fight-ending power. And I do feel like on the feet in the boxing range, Maheta has a big advantage. This is a good fight because I think that Rakic, in his last fight, he did show that he needed a big step up in competition. He had really nasty kicks, man. That kick just chopped down the leg of Anthony Smith, really rattled his body, and he was able to just beat the shit out of the guy. Just got on top of him, and he kind of played it safe on the ground. In terms of his grappling, I feel like it's a little bit overrated. He's not really, I don't think, in my opinion, going to be able to take down a guy and control a guy like Thiago Santos. He didn't get any takedowns on Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith got taken down, or got, put on bottom because Rakic was dropping him with low kicks. And against Thiago Santos, I don't think he's going to be able to have the same success on the feet at range because Maheta's just so explosive. Don't think he's going to be able to, just command that type of respect. I think Maheta's going to be closing that gap, making it a crazy fight like he always does. And Rakic, I feel like he just has some kind of bad defense on the inside, man. He leans back. He has his chin right in the air. He holds his hands low. And I feel like in the boxing, Maheta is going to have a pretty sizable advantage there. I just don't see Aleksandar Rakic being that same type of grappler that a guy like Glover Teixeira is. I don't think he's just going to be able to take down a guy like Thiago Santos, control him on the mat, and dominate him, get constant takedowns. The only guys he's taken down are very low-level guys in the UFC. Thiago, he has had issues with some wrestlers, but I feel like, Rakic, he's more of a striker, man, and I don't think he's going to be able to hit that single leg on Maheta Santos. I think Maheta is going to look a little bit better here. It is his second fight coming off that injury and all that. And even against Glover, he showed how dangerous he was, almost finishing him multiple times in that fight. I just feel like he's too explosive. He's going to make Rakic pay for some of these defensive mistakes that Rakic does. I feel like he's just the more dangerous striker on the feet. I do think Rakic obviously could hurt Thiago and take Thiago out too. But I think it's going to be a stand-up fight. I don't necessarily agree with the notion that Rakic is going to be able to hit takedowns here. And if you can't hit takedowns in a guy like Thiago Santos, you aren't a guy like John Jones who could, really keep the distance, show real great defense. I feel like Maheta is going to catch you. And that's what I think is going to happen here. I just feel like he's going to be able to catch Rakic moving backwards with the blitz, or he's going to catch him, in the pocket with a big counter and knock him out. So I'm going with Thiago Santos here. Another interesting fight here in the next one as we have the supposed heir to the throne of Khabib Nurmagomedov and Islam Makhachev taking on Drew Dober. And another interesting wrinkle to the fight is, Drew Dober is the main training partner for Justin Gaethje, so it's kind of like a second chance for Team Elevation to get one back on AKA, to get one back on Khabib. But man, I don't really have a big breakdown for this fight. I feel like, Drew Dober, he's shown a lot of improvement and really gotten better with his takedown defense. His striking has looked on another level recently. And, Islam isn't infallible. We have seen him knocked out by a guy like Adriano Martins, but I do believe he has the more technical striking than Khabib Nurmagomedov. And, that was his only career loss, and I feel like his grappling is on a similar level. What have we seen that's, been an issue for Drew Dober throughout his career is the grappling, man. He struggles to stop guys from taking him down, and when he gets taken down, he struggles to stop the submissions. So, in this fight, when you got a guy that, has 93% takedowns defended, he's almost 70% takedowns at over 3 takedowns a fight, facing a guy that only defends 58% of his takedown attempts against lesser guys. I just feel like this is a good fight for Islam Makhachev. Drew Dober obviously is going to have a chance to land that kill shot. He's going to have good movement early. He's going to be dangerous. He's big. He's explosive. He's fast. He's athletic. He hits hard. And Islam has to respect all of that. But I think after the first takedown, You're going to see a lot of the juice drain out of Drew Dober, and you're going to see a similar fight to the one with Justin Gaethje, man. I don't really have a real extensive breakdown for this fight. I just feel like Islam is going to be able to get in on the clinch, get him against the cage, hit a takedown, get on top, get into a dominant position, and just go to work on Drew Dober. And I eventually think he'll probably even be able to find the finish, if not get a decision. Drew Dober does tend to be a guy that doesn't accept losing by decision. You'll try to, use big actions, get back up to his feet, and you'll usually make a mistake, get submitted. So I'm actually going to go with Islam Makhachev here. I think he's going to be a domination type win here. I'm believing in the hype. Maybe Islam Makhachev is going to be hype, and he's not going to be as good as people say. Drew Dober is going to come in here and put the guy down, but I don't see that happening. I see Islam going in there, doing his thing, using his striking to safely get on the inside, get the takedown. Once he gets on top, I think he's going to be clearly superior, much dominant, and just be able to get the win. So I'm going to go with Islam Makhachev here to get it done. Man, what a fight we got here, man. Petr Yan, Funkmaster Aljamain Sterling, for the undisputed bantamweight title of the world. These guys have been going back and forth for months now. This fight was supposed to happen a couple times, and it's been postponed. And, finally Aljamain Sterling is getting his rightful shot at the belt. And he's going to be taking on a bad motherfucker, Petr Yan, man, who had to go out there against the rejuvenated Jose Aldo that looked the best he had looked in years. And, he was able to take him out in those later rounds. So Petr Yan, it proved to me that, he's a rightful, UFC champion. But he's going to be taking on a guy here in Aljamain Sterling that isn't a little bit past his prime, that isn't a guy that's on the other side. I think he's going to be taking on a prime Aljamain Sterling, guy that's, looked better than he's ever had. And Aljamain Sterling is a fighter that, in my opinion, he's always been this guy that could have eventually came up and fought for the title, gotten the title if he potentially wins it here. But it's a mental thing with Aljamain Sterling, where I feel like earlier on in his career, he maybe wasn't as confident in himself and his skills and his abilities. I think now he's extremely confident. This is the best Aljo we've ever seen. And, if he can't win here, then, that's, I don't think going to break him. I think he's going to be able to come back and even, come back again and try to get another shot. I really do feel like Aljo's in a great spot mentally, but he's going to be taking on a guy in Petr Yan that's a very difficult matchup for Aljamain Sterling. If you look at Petr Yan, I mean, to me, his style is perfect to beat a guy like Aljo. Aljo is a long guy that likes to use a lot of kicks. He utilizes a lot of kicks. I mean, his striking with the hands, his boxing is okay, but he doesn't really have a lot of power. He throws real wide shots at times, kind of loopy, real not super technical boxing. I feel like Petr Yan is way better with the hands, throws way harder shots, way more damaging shots, and he closes that gap, and he's so good at just keeping that pressure, not backing up, getting guys backed up to the fence and just making them uncomfortable, jamming the kick range. I don't think Aljamain Sterling is going to be able to control the distance and throw those kicks like he was doing against certain guys like Jimmy Rivera, John Dodson. I think Petr's going to be in his face, man. And, in terms of the grappling, Petr Yan, he hasn't shown it a lot in the UFC in terms of his grappling defense. But if you go back and watch a few of his fights on the regional scene, like when he fought Magomedov, that guy's, I believe, 18-1. He's an elite fighter. And he does have a win over Petr Yan. You watch the first fight, he was able to take down Petr, take his back, controlled him. And you watch that second fight, though, Petr Yan went in there, completely shut all that down, man. I mean, this guy has extremely heavy hips. His takedown defense is really, really, really incredible. His cardio is incredible. And the thing that he does that I think is going to be a big hindrance and really, really lead to him winning the fight and wearing on Aljamain Sterling is his clinch work, man. I mean, nasty in the clinch with his elbows, with his knees. When you shoot in for takedowns, this guy makes you pay. He hits you to the body. He's still walking you down, and I don't think he's going to slow down. I think he has the better striking, and I really don't see Aljamain Sterling getting it to the ground. I think it's going to be a big struggle for Aljamain Sterling to get this fight to the mat. I think that Petr Yan going to ATT is also a good move. I mean, he's training with one of the best wrestling camps in the world here. I'm sure they're really giving him a lot of personalized help as well. And I don't feel like it's like Aljamain Sterling has been saying in the whole build-up he only needs one takedown and the fight's over. I don't agree with that. And what happens when he hits that takedown, he goes through the gambit, he almost gets him in a rear naked choke, and it doesn't happen for him, and he's still there, and Petr Yan's there the next round on the feet, and they're striking, and, I don't think Aljamain Sterling is going to be able to last 5 rounds with this guy, man. I think Petr Yan's going to be able to close that gap, really beat up the legs of Aljamain Sterling, use his boxing to start backing him up. I think Aljamain Sterling's going to start to get more and more desperate once he can't get the takedowns. I think that he's going to get more and more tired. I've heard a lot of people say they don't think Sterling is going to get tired in his fights, but he throws so much volume, whereas I don't think he's going to be able to throw that amount of volume against a guy like Petr Yan, because I think Petr's just going to be able to do a better job of countering, getting on the inside, and not letting Aljamain throw all that junk, which is not really that powerful. We saw against Pedro Munoz, Aljamain Sterling slowed down in that 3rd round. We saw against Brian Caraway, Aljamain Sterling slowed down in that 3rd round massively. Even if you go back and watch his fights with like Brett Johns and Augusto Mendes, he slows down a little bit. And those are certain fights as well, like the Brett Johns fight, which really made me sway towards Petr Yan. The ability that Brett Johns had to get on the inside, and just how uncomfortable Aljamain looked in the boxing with a guy like Brett Johns, with a guy like Pedro Munoz. If you're looking like that against them, man, against Petr Yan, I think he's really going to be, struggling in that range. I think Petr Yan is too mean, man. I don't think Aljamain Sterling's going to get a submission here. I really feel like Petr Yan's grappling defense is going to be on point. The takedown defense, I think it's going to be extremely hard for Aljamain Sterling to get the fight to the mat. And, Aljamain Sterling, he's had a good matchup in his last fight where he took down Corey Sandhagen in that first minute, dominated him, submitted him. But Petr Yan isn't Corey Sandhagen, man. He's going to show that. Corey Sandhagen is a bad motherfucker in his own right. He's an elite level striker, but he doesn't have that grappling that Petr Yan has. And maybe you could say Petr Yan doesn't have the striking, but Aljamain Sterling doesn't have that level of striking. So I just feel like Petr Yan's going to be able to just make Aljamain Sterling pay on the feet, be the superior striker. And I feel like he's going to have a dominant performance here, actually. So give me Petr Yan here, and give me Petr Yan for a very, very, very solid victory. Alright, the co-main event here, Amanda Nunes taking on Megan Anderson, and I don't know, I don't really have a huge breakdown for this fight either. Amanda Nunes, she's the greatest female fighter of all time. She's going to be taking on Megan Anderson, who's, had mixed results in the UFC, and, kind of had mixed results even in Invicta, where she lost to girls like Cindy Dandois, things like that, and, I just don't see a girl that lost to Cindy Dandois losing beating Amanda Nunes in a title fight, man. And Megan Anderson, she's obviously 6 feet tall. She hits real hard, and obviously her chance to victory, in my opinion, is going to be that first round knockout. I don't think that she's as powerful as Amanda Nunes, but I do think that she has enough power to maybe hurt Amanda. But ultimately, I just don't think she's going to stop the takedown. We saw Felicia Spencer be able to get on the inside, take down Megan Anderson, and dominate her on the ground, submit her. Then we saw how easily Amanda Nunes just out-grappled Felicia Spencer, man. And I just don't really see how Megan Anderson can win this fight. In the comments, if you really have a good read on why you think Megan will win, or if you really think she has a good shot, or you see kind of a tendency from Nunes, one angle I guess you could say is Nunes is, just had a new kid, so maybe she is a little bit softer. Maybe she's, not been training as hard, overlooking a girl like Megan Anderson. But other than that, I feel like if she takes her down, she's going to be able to submit her any way she wants. I think that on the feet, she's the more technical striker as well. I just don't see a lot of paths to victory for Megan Anderson. Not a real high-level advanced breakdown or log breakdown here, but I think Amanda Nunes is going to be able to get the takedown and get the submission, man. I think she's just on another level. Megan Anderson, she had 2 back-to-back first-round knockouts. She looks good, but I don't think she's going to beat Amanda Nunes. So I'm going to go with Amanda Nunes. I think she's going to get the submission. And here we go, man. We got the main event. This is the fight that I've been looking forward to since they announced it, man. This is a sick fight right here. Jan Blachowicz taking on Israel Adesanya. And, obviously Israel Adesanya is moving up to 205. He's trying to get that champ status, become the fifth guy in UFC history to become a champ. But, man, I mean, he's taking on Jan Blachowicz, who I feel like he's consistently underrated, man. Even in this spot, I feel like no one is talking about him. No one's even, saying, maybe I got that fight wrong with him versus Dominick Reyes, because I know I was on Jan versus Dominick Reyes, but a lot of people, are giving him no shot versus Dominick Reyes. They're saying that he was going to get run through, and, now they're giving him no shot versus Israel Adesanya. They're giving him no credit for getting that big win over Dominick Reyes, but, man, I mean, both these guys have some weird things going for him, man. I mean, you see Israel, and he's got like that, I don't know, he's got like some voodoo spirits where he's, who knows, he's got something going up his sleeve. Then you got Jan over there with this fucking, found a rope of someone that hung themselves in the woods, and he's, it's 8-1 since that happened, touching the rope. I don't know, man, but I mean, both these guys, they got some different aura about themselves. I mean, you hear Jan, at his, when you listen to him doing commentary, or not commentary, but his interviews, he's so confident, he's just talking so nonchalantly, and you could tell that he has so much belief in himself. And belief is a huge part of this game, man. He had the same exact type of mentality for the last fight. And I feel like this fight is going to be much, much closer, much more competitive than a lot of people are going to give it credit. I mean, first of all, we have to touch on the fact that Israel Adesanya, he's already said that he's going to potentially weigh 193, 195 pounds for this fight. That's kind of unprecedented in this modern era. I don't think we've seen someone fight a UFC title fight 12 pounds or, under the limit or, of the weight class. That's pretty strange, especially when their opponent is going to be weighing probably 220, 225 in the octagon. So Jan Blachowicz is going to have a huge size advantage, much, much bigger than he usually has. And he's shown, man, that he's got a different type of power. If he touches you, he's going to put you to sleep. And, that left kick that he was landing on Dominick Reyes was just brutal, man. He brutalized his leg, brutalized his body, and eventually, Dominick Reyes started to get desperate, and he put him down in brutal fashion. So, Jan Blachowicz is not fucking around, man. And you got Israel Adesanya, who, also ran through the middleweight division. So, he's, obviously looked very, very impressive. And to me, I mean, the way this fight, both guys wanted to play out is Israel is going to be the taller guy. He's going to be faster. He's going to have the range, and he's going to have the speed. So, to me, I mean, he's going to want to keep it on the outside, touch Blachowicz, pot shot him, just use his superior counter striking, and, I believe try to work to win a decision, because I think that if he tries to brawl with a guy like Jan Blachowicz, if they get in the pocket, he's going to lose that, 10 times, 9 times out of 10. I think that, obviously, Jan is not a guy like Paulo Costa. I think he's going to be much more technical. You've heard him in his interview say that he thinks he's going to get a knockout with the left high kick, which, man, he should be confident in that left kick after his fight with Dominick Reyes. But to me, that says that he's going to be patient himself. He's going to try to use that left kick to, draw out Israel Adesanya, to hurt him to the legs, to the body, slow him down. Maybe even try to get in that clinch, obviously, where on Israel uses superior size, uses superior grappling. If you can get on top of Israel Adesanya, I think that's going to be bad news for Izzy. And Jan Blachowicz, I mean, he's super durable, man. He's only got put down in that one time by Thiago Santos, who has crazy, insane power. And, it was because he made a mistake. He blitzed Thiago Santos. And that's, in my opinion, a little bit because Thiago Santos flipped the script on Jan Blachowicz. Usually Thiago Santos is the guy that's blitzing you, that's being wild. And he was a counterpuncher. He was being technical in that fight. And I felt like Jan was actually controlling the fight. But, he got a little bit crazy, closed the distance, and Thiago made him pay for it. Against a guy like Israel Adesanya, where he knows that Israel's going to be timing him, measuring him, looking for that counter shot, I think he's going to be much more technical in the way that he closes the gap, much more technical in the way that he's just trying to strike. So I don't think he's going to, close the distance all wild like that. I think he's going to have a good game plan. And, man, I mean, we've seen Israel hit before. If he gets hit like he got hit against Kelvin, I don't think he's going to be able to survive that against a guy with Polish power like Jan Blachowicz, man. And I do think that Jan is going to have success with that left kick, which is going to damage Israel Adesanya, make him less effective, make him less, willing to engage. And I think it's going to be very close, tactical chess match type of fight. I think that Jan Blachowicz, if early on he can get in the clinch, wear on Israel, get him tired, he could even potentially get a finish down the stretch or, really work him. But I think that his low volume and the speed disadvantage that he has is going to, really play dividends for Israel Adesanya. I think that Israel's feints are also going to help him a lot. I've noticed in certain fights from Jan Blachowicz, he really gives big reactions to a lot of feints. So I do feel like Israel's feints are going to be effective in this fight, especially if he could start to, land counters or land shots off of the feints that he throws. And I think that, obviously Jan is more of a striker, so it's going to be hard for me to say that he's going to be able to effectively, implement the grappling, even though I do think it's a possibility. And he has, shown good grappling. He's been able to submit guys like Nikita Krylov, who, obviously are good grapplers at 205 pounds. And if you look at Jan's career, man, I mean, he really hasn't gotten outstruck by anyone. If you look at all of his losses, they're all, guys taking him down. Even guys like Alexander Gustafsson were forced to take him down. And you see his fight with Thiago Santos, to me, is winning that fight and just makes a mistake. It's over, or gets impatient, closes that gap, gets knocked out. So he's never lost a striking fight, man. I feel like people really underestimate, Jan's jab. That jab is a fucking piston. He's a really nasty boxer. He definitely has better boxing than Israel Adesanya. And, he's southpaw. He, he's a good striker, man. Real good. I feel like he's going to give a lot of issues to Israel. And I actually could see him winning 2 rounds. Maybe I could even see Jan winning the fight, but man, I'm kind of too scared to go against Israel, man. I went with my boy Jan when he fought Dominick Reyes. He came through for me, really dominated that fight, took Dominick Reyes out. Really was an easy fight. But with this fight with Israel Adesanya, I feel like Israel is going to maybe be a little bit too smart, a little bit too crafty, use his speed advantage, just out-volume Jan Blachowicz, but I don't see a walkthrough. I don't see Jan getting knocked out by this guy. I think it's going to be close, competitive. If anyone gets finished, I think it's going to be Israel Adesanya. And but ultimately, man, I'm going to go with Israel. I'm going to say he wins 48-47 decision and becomes a 2-division world champion. So there you have it, guys. Thanks for watching this version or this episode of the podcast, UFC 259 breakdown. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, like I said in the beginning of the video, leave a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed, and make sure to check out the Patreon as well. I actually have quite a few bets out. I actually really like this card in terms of betting, and I'm gonna have another video over there, a couple videos for you there before the end of the week on the Patreon as well. So go over there, show some support if you can. That would be really awesome. Like some of the spots that I have. And as far as the free plays that I'm going to give you on the video this week, for the parlay of the week, I'm going to do Amanda Lemos and Carlos Ulberg. For my most confident pick, it's going to be Islam Makhachev. And for my underdog of the week, it's going to be Trevin Jones and also Thiago Santos. So there you have it, guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and I'll talk to you guys soon.